Boom! We are live, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Welcome to the Nolan Huckeye Anthony YouTube channel. And I thank all of you for being here wherever you may be. And of course, however you may be listening. So earlier in the week, a recent ruling came down, and I notified all of you who are friends with me on Facebook that I would be discussing this ruling once and for all, one final time, a way to close the book. And it's not necessarily because there's not going to be and you know what, it may not be once and for all. I mean, there may be things that come down the line that have to be discussed. But I'm anticipating that this is going to be it for a while. I steered clear of talking about this for a pretty long time. Most recently, I only talked about it because there was some pretty big news. And of course, what I'm talking about is the racial allegations that were levied against the University of Iowa football team. I'm just watching my cat. And like I said, I steered clear of it for a while, but I decided that it was a needed discussion. It was important within the realm of Iowa Hawkeye sports. And in general, I have been very vocal about this subject. And I think, unlike most, I have been one of the only few who has been irrefutably honest about this situation. And let me tell you guys, it's not easy to do that. That's why not everybody does it. And I'm not saying that you necessarily need to trust that I'm honest about this, but I'm here to tell you just from my point of view that I am. And believe me, it is difficult, especially way back when this first came down the pipeline. And we were 247hawkeye.com was the only place that gave a full picture of what was going on, putting forth the facts that we fully knew for sure. Any opinion pieces we stated as such, so on and so on. And like I said, believe me, it is not easy. We took a ton of heat. This is a topic where there's very little middle ground. And I feel that way, especially against a certain perspective. I think that if you do not, my experience with this has been that if you do not 100% and full-heartedly say that Iowa is a racist program or racist program, and that Kirk Ferentz needs to be fired, Coach Doyle needed to be fired, that there would be some that, it just would not, you would be labeled that no matter what, because you didn't take that side. And it is what it is. It is what it is. Point is that it's not easy. And generally speaking, I want this to be all about the sports as much as possible. And keep this as light as possible. So anyways, let's get into it. The bottom line is what just came out. The two most recent developments was, number one, Kirk Ferentz, Chris Doyle, Seth Wallace, and I believe Brian Ferentz were all dropped from the suit. And from my perspective, when that happened, it looked really good for the Iowa football team, because to me, it was like, well, you don't drop the individuals from the suit, especially when it's a situation where you're alleging directly at those individuals that those individuals did certain alleged things and acted in certain alleged ways. So I thought that pointed to that this was done, that this was going to go in favor of the Iowa football program. And so I made a video revealing that. And then I would say about a couple days later, we find that Iowa will be paying $4.2 million to the individuals who brought forth the allegations. I'm pulling up the articles here. Sorry, guys. Pulling up the articles here. And so as quick as I can make it, my quick take is very simple. To me, the logical evidence, the independent investigation that the University of Iowa hired, all pointed to Iowa being a normal football program with normal, harsh realities of a Division I program. And I can speak of this as a former Division I athlete myself. I can speak of this as somebody who has been a part of a college program. And I can speak of this as somebody who has talked with one of the individuals on the lawsuit behind closed doors. Now, that I've said this many times, that is anecdotal, and I understand that as far as my conversations I've had with Cavante Martin-Manley behind closed doors, never in person, but on the phone conversations. We just lived in different states, was never really possible to do things in person. And to me, it was fairly evident that Iowa was a normal Division I football program. It was that simple. And then you have you have players dropping out of the suit. You also have coaches being dropped out of the suit as well. And I really thought that this was going to go in favor of Iowa, as I believe it should. And I fully admit that I'm biased as an Iowa Hawkeye fan, and I have my own worldview. I totally understand that. But the reality is that it was settled that Iowa will pay $4.2 million. And I got to tell you guys, this is not good. This is not good at all. I've seen some articles that say, well, we can finally put this behind us once and for all. So it's good that it's over. And, the Iowa football program can put this behind them. But as somebody who believes in fiscal responsibility, I don't live in the state of Iowa, but I certainly don't love that the taxpayers are going to have to pay $4.2 million for something that happened with the football program. Not to mention how much is spent already for the football program with coaches, stadiums, things like that. Now, I fully acknowledge that some of that is needed if you want a good program. You need to have good coaches, which means you have to have a competitive salary. And I've said before that I believe in the dump truck method. Programs like Iowa, programs that have a good fan base and are in Power 5 conferences, have tons of money at their disposal. And if you want to win, you have enough money to just go get the coach that you need to get. So I am massively in favor of what I call the dump truck method. But again, I don't love that the taxpayers are going to have to pay $4.2 million for this situation. I do like that Kirk Ferentz came out and said that he was not happy with the decision. I believe, I don't know all the legalese. I'm no expert when it comes to law, but I believe what happened is there was a vote for, some, I guess, what I would assume the state government system, the law within the state government system, whatever, 3 people sit aboard that, and they voted, and it was 2-1 in favor of the former players. And like I said, I think it's good that Kirk Ferentz came out and said what he said. But overall, I mean, just check this out, guys. When you type in Iowa football, look at this. The top 2 articles you get are from Hawk Central, 12 black Iowa football players vindicated, in quotes, by settlement. Lawyer says, let's just click on it. Lawyer says, or well, that's the lawyer who said, blasts Kirk Ferentz, which of course he's going to do. AP News, lawyer. And before, the lawyer part was not even on this. It just said before this part, black Iowa football players at risk under Ferentz. And I got to tell you guys, this is not going to help Iowa in the least in their recruiting efforts. You know, they have been doing, I would say, just fine on the recruiting trail, but I'd be lying if I said that this hadn't played any role at all in Iowa's recruiting. It most certainly did. Okay. I would even argue that they could have done even better than they have if they didn't have this going on due to the recent on the field success that Iowa has been having. And as somebody who follows Iowa recruiting extensively, Iowa does somewhat struggle to get commitments from black players. It's not like they don't. They absolutely do. But it is, if you look across the board comparatively at how many black athletes play the sport of football, I would say it's disproportional. So again, it plays a role. Now, in the end, does Iowa get the most of the players that they want? Probably, and that's fine as long as they end up getting the athletes. It doesn't matter to me the skin color or anything like that. Obviously, I just want the best football team to be on the field. But I do think that this has definitely impacted the Iowa football program for sure. This is a mess, and or at the very least, a slight mess. And when it comes to Kirk Ferentz, this is definitely going to impact his legacy. To me, it's very unfortunate, because I believe Kirk Ferentz has not only done a lot for his players, which include players of all ethnicities, including black players, but he's done a lot for the sport of football. In football specifically, and when football, the game is done. So this is only time will tell how this truly affects Kirk Ferentz, Brian Ferentz, and the coaches that were all a part of this. A couple of years ago, I said that I believed that Derek Foster and Tim Polasek did depart from Iowa largely because of this mess, if I had to guess. Now, I don't have any evidence to prove that, but one would understand why. I mean, why would you want to be attached to this? So, like I said, only time will tell how this really impacts everybody involved. It's done. Hopefully it's completely behind the football program. It sucks that $4.2 million are going to have to be paid from the taxpayers. Now, some of the taxpayers are going to think that that's great, that they are duly giving some of these players this money. So it really just depends. I think in all of this, Gary Barta is probably the one who has to have the biggest magnifying glass, because you have to, on him of everybody, because you have to ask, well, okay, if this happened, what type of power are you giving to a coach who, are you giving too much power? So, and my final thought, so Gary Barta is probably going to be the one who has the biggest magnifying glass on him after all of this. What kind of oversight is being done on the Iowa football program? With the nepotism, with the allegations, the bottom line is Iowa football has been kind of noisy of late. And the last thing is that just a thought is, to me, reaching the $4.2 million settlement, does that admit guilt? Does that mean Iowa is guilty? I would say in this circumstance, no, just because it came down to a vote rather than a full-blown settlement outside of court, as far as I understand. But if it was a settlement after court, outside of court, I would say that that's a mistake. And yes, that does admit some sort of guilt. So anyways, I'm very curious what you guys think on this. Very curious. The final thing that I want to talk about is Iowa basketball. Just really quickly, Iowa basketball definitely hugely missed an opportunity to have their best finish in the Big Ten under Fran McCaffery. Yet another letdown. It's so tough to be a Fran McCaffery fan because on one hand, you see the overall success, but then when you provide an even more intense magnifying glass on his results, you think to yourself, well, dang, all the big moments have been lost. NCAA tournament, a game at the end of the season at home, senior night. But then you could say, well, but they also won the Big Ten tournament. So, and they won, they did really well in the NI tournament that one year. So, it really just depends. I think that it's too bad. I started to believe that this Iowa team was the most talented team, top to bottom, that Fran McCaffery has had in his tenure. And I do think that they have the ability to finish strong in the NCAA tournament. So we'll see how that goes. They certainly have Chris Murray and some pieces to do it. Tony Perkins is probably, I would say, one of the most electric guards that Fran McCaffery has had in his tenure. So we'll see. Iowa plays Ohio State. Hopefully they can at least pick up one win in the Big Ten tournament. If I had to guess, they're probably going to be a 7 or an 8 seed in the NCAA tournament. And we'll see what happens from there. All right, guys, let me know what you guys think of the recent development with Iowa football. Definitely like, comment, share, and subscribe. All the support really, really helps. If you guys want to send a donation, you absolutely can by just donating to the channel. And last but not least, DBAP, don't be a pussy willow and facts or feelings, because your feelings just don't matter. Love you guys. See you guys next time. Go Hawks.